Thank you for joining this very informative recording today to learn more about writing trends across LCISD and ways to address our students' needs. Dr. Christy Thamelitz from Region 4 reviewed thousands of our district's 2018 fourth grade STAAR writing images and created a needs assessment report based on her findings. The information in this video will explain her findings as well as her suggestions for improvement. So let's dive right in. According to the Region 4 Needs Assessment on our 2018 fourth grade expository writings, the majority of our students lacked an organizing structure. An organizing structure is not the same as format, which includes the introduction, paragraph reason 1, paragraph reason 2, and conclusion. The organizing structure is the structural pattern for a piece of writing. Its organizing structures are important because they create logical patterns for the reader to follow. There are several types of structures or ways to organize expository writing. These structures include description, cause and effect, problem and solution, compare and contrast, and sequencing. Now, do these structures sound familiar? Well, they should, because they are the very same structures we study when we are reading informational texts. Therefore, as a district, we must make the connection for students between the organizing structure we see in reading so that they can apply it to their STAAR expository writing. Organizing structure is an expectation for all students in grades 4, 7, and English 1, yet it cannot be taught only in these tested grade levels. Organizing structure is an integral part of the STAAR expository rubric in all 3 grade levels. According to the STAAR expository rubric as listed in the second bullet, in order to score a 4, the writer must use an organizing structure that is clearly appropriate to the purpose and demands of the prompt, and well suited to the expository task. In other words, the best organizing structure is actually selected by the writer, according to the prompt, of course. Fortunately, students are well informed that the writing task is expository, so their decision becomes how best to communicate my ideas as a writer. In the 2018 STAAR expository prompt, it reads, write about the person you would want to meet and explain why you want to meet that person. The first step as a writer, I must select the person I want to meet. The second step is to explain why I want to meet that person. These 2 steps together create my central idea, which completely addresses the entire prompt in one sentence. For many of our students scoring a 2 or below, they completely ignored the second part of the prompt, explaining the why. Now, without this explanation, students cannot demonstrate an understanding of the expository task, which is to explain. So in the first example, the student chose to meet the author Gary Paulson because of how different his life was from theirs. The author wants to compare lives which require a specific organizing structure called, guess what? Compare and contrast. In the second example, the author chose their grandfather because of how it led to a journey. This author wants to explain the effects of meeting their grandfather, which requires a specific organizing structure called cause and effect. Let's continue. Next, we see a writer who chose to meet Benjamin Franklin because of the events leading to the invention of electricity. The author wants to tell about a few events in sequential order leading to the invention of electricity, which of course requires an organizational structure called sequence. Another writer chose to meet LeBron James because of how children who have mentors are successful. The author wants to discuss a problem which is solved by having a mentor. which requires an organizational structure called problem and solution. In our last example, a writer chose a military veteran to describe how they can make history understandable. The author wants to vividly describe what a military veteran sees and hears, in addition to their stories, to better understand history. This organizational structure is called description. So once students understand the various types of organizational structures, they avoid the persistent problem of the dreaded formulaic essay. Remember, a formulaic essay has a format or a formula of introduction, reason 1, reason 2, followed by the conclusion. But it actually lacks an organizational structure, which are the 5 structures we previously learned about. As students choose an appropriate organizational structure, they will naturally begin to use specific words that communicate their choice. So in scaffolding instruction to help students understand organizational structures, assist them in determining which of them fits with their central idea. If the central idea is comparing and contrasting, then the sentence stems on this slide will naturally fit within their piece. It is often said that blank is similar to blank, but actually blank. Or I used to think blank was different than blank, but now I know blank. Or although blank is blank, blank is very similar. Notice the specific word choice in these stems that indicate comparing and contrasting to the reader. Similar, different, and I used to think, but now I think. Other words include alike, unalike, both, however, but, and than. If the central idea communicates a cause and effect, then the sentence stems on this slide will naturally fit within their piece. As a result of blank, blank is a concern, or the effects of blank are caused by blank, or the consequences of blank are blank. Notice the specific word choice in these stems that indicate cause and effect to the reader. As a result, effects, caused by, and consequences. Other words include because, therefore, and so. If the central idea is sequencing, then the sentence stems on this slide will naturally fit within their piece. Many events contribute to blank leading to blank, or it is important to know blank, blank, and blank about blank. Notice a specific word choice in these stems that indicate sequencing to the reader. Events contribute to and leading to. Now, there are additional sequential words besides the expected first, next, then, and last. It's not that these words cannot be used for sequencing, it's that sometimes their use can become formulaic if the author is not a very skilled writer. If the central idea explains a problem and a solution, then the sentence stems on this slide will naturally fit within their piece. By focusing on blank, the problem of blank begins, or blank is a solution to blank, or the evidence shows that blank. Notice the specific word choice in these stems that indicate a problem and a solution to the reader. Problem and solution, of course. Other words might include because, in order to, so that, if, and trouble. If the central idea is a description, then the sentence stems on this slide will naturally fit within their piece. My own experience with blank has shown me blank, or what blank really means is blank, or when you see blank, it means blank. Notice the specific word choice in these stems that indicate description to the reader, shown and see. Other words include characteristics, describe, sounds like, tastes like, or feels like. So let's begin practicing with using a variety of organizational structures by using visuals. Take a moment to look at these two pictures. Now write a few sentences about the pictures. You may look back at the pictures again if needed. Make sure your sentences use specific words to help the reader understand the organizing structure you have chosen. In case you're stuck, let's look at some sample sentences. Some foods are healthier than others. As a reader, I would expect to read about a compare and contrast of these foods. The second example says, why is it that foods that taste the best are the worst for your health? Oh, I definitely see some problems there and hopefully a solution. The next example, natural foods come in a variety of colors. Colors. I would expect to read a lot about description there. The next example, fatty foods lead to a fat body. Oh, that's definitely a cause and effect that is all so true. And the last one, I am a pro at hiding vegetables in my kids' food. I would expect as a reader to find a sequence of how to do this. On the next couple of slides, let's read a longer piece of text and determine which organizational structure the writer used. Let's look at a sample of 4th grade writing. Being in my grade is like an amusement park because there are so many activities to do. The best thing about being in my grade is learning how to use a computer. One day we went down to the computer lab. I sat in front of a computer and the teacher showed us what all the keys are supposed to do. Then we worked with partners to go on a search to find certain keys on the keyboard. My partner and I were able to do this faster than the other team, so we finished first. Then our teacher showed us how to find the internet. She explained to us what a search engine will do, and now I am better at looking things up. Finally, we were able to use a special program that allows us to practice our math skills. We had to put on headphones because everybody was at a different place. When I missed a question, I was allowed to answer another question. Going to the computer lab is the best part of 4th grade. So if you're new to organizational structures, you might want to start with what structure this writing is not. In this example, there's not a problem or solution. There's not a cause and effect or relationship. And they're really not comparing and contrasting anything. So in this example, are they using a description or a sequential organizing structure? Let's think about the difference between a sequence and a description organizational structure. Sequential structure tells the sequence from beginning to end of one event. Description structure describes attributes, facts, and ideas in great detail, at times possibly using the 5 senses. So in this example, the writer explains how learning to use a computer is the best thing about being in 4th grade. The writer then describes one day in the computer lab where he or she learned about keys, how to find the internet, and practice math skills in a special program. Did you notice the words then and finally? The writer used a sequential organizational structure in this essay. Let's look at another student example. The best thing about being in my grade is experiencing life outside of school. Last week we went to the Science Museum. Going through the planetarium was my favorite activity. The planetarium surrounds the viewer with space. The asteroids are moving so fast and appear out of nowhere. They are like shiny rocks that are just suddenly passing by. The asteroid field is scary, but at the same time, it is a great way to experience what space is really like. Space is very dark, and so anything that is lit up seems very bright. The bright planet shows holes and deep pits from being hit by asteroids flying through outer space. Going to the planetarium was the best thing in my grades so far, and I hope we get to go on another one soon. Again, it is clear that the writer is not presenting a problem and solution, not comparing and contrasting, and there's not really a cause and effect relationship of ideas. In this example, you can see how the writer used much more of a vivid description than our last example. This writer used a description organizational structure to organize their essay. In both examples, notice how the writer chose one central idea supported by one reason. Gone are the days of one idea supported by 3 reasons or even 2 reasons. There just isn't enough space on 26 lines to fully develop each idea. Focus and structure are the key here. So after organizational structure, the next key component to successful writing involves coherence. Again, according to our needs assessment report, the majority of our students' writing lacked coherence. Coherence involves how seamlessly each sentence and idea flows into the next. Coherence logically moves from sentence to sentence and connects ideas. Each sentence connects to the next sentence with no sentence overlap. Meaningful transitions clarify relationships between sentences, paragraphs, and ideas. The reader is easily able to follow the train of thought of the writer because the explanation is well controlled. So now that we understand coherency, how do we teach students to understand it so that they can produce coherent writing? Coherency first begins with close reading, by closely reading the STAAR expository prompt. So let's take a look at this prompt. Write about your favorite place to spend time and explain what makes it special. The first part of the prompt in red is the topic to write about. The second part in red is what to explain, or the approach that the writer will take. So let's think about this in steps. Step 1 would be to closely read the STAAR expository prompt and construct a T-chart like the one shown. By addressing the 2 parts of the prompt like this, students have to address the explanation portion of the prompt, which is the whole purpose of expository writing, the explanation. Practice this step and just this step with your students using multiple prompts from the past STAAR test until they get the hang of it. Additional sample prompts are available in the writing workshop portion of the third 9 weeks roadmap. So how do you craft a central idea? Well, step 2 would be craft a central idea from the prompt. So let's look at an example of a central idea. The beach is a special place to spend time with my family. So step 3, quickly sketch at least 4 things you like to do at the beach by putting 1 in each box. Notice I said sketch and not draw in great detail. This step is really just about quickly brainstorming ideas to write about later. In step 4, choose 1 idea to explain what makes the beach special. By selecting just 1 reason to fully explain in detail, students will automatically have coherency. Ta-da! 1 focused topic linked throughout each paragraph. Again, we no longer expect students to write about 3 reasons or even 2 reasons anymore. By writing about more than 1 reason, students are not able to fully explain in detail enough to score higher than a 2. Papers that scored a 2 containing multiple reasons had great difficulty connecting each idea to each other. In fact, Each reason stood independently from each other in separate paragraphs, which resulted in a lack of coherency. Provide students multiple opportunities to just sketch 4 reasons using a variety of STAAR prompts. Here is an example of student writing which demonstrates coherency. A volleyball game at the beach means getting sand between my toes and in my hair. My family is large, so we have a big team. We do not play games at home because we are so busy. The sand makes a great place to have a volleyball game away from home. My dad likes to pretend that he is a professional player. Watching him play always makes me laugh. Even my youngest sister is able to join in the game. These games are always fun, and it makes me happy to see my family laughing and playing together at the beach. You know, as a reader, I can easily see that the writer's favorite place is the beach because they like to play volleyball with their family. Can you tell what organizational structure the writer used? Sounds descriptive, doesn't it? You're right, it's descriptive. So let's remember what coherency is. The ideas in a focused essay have coherence when they are linked to each other and the central idea in some meaningful way. When writing is coherent, all ideas are connected. So let's review what students must know when writing to an expository prompt for STAAR. First, you have to believe that you are a writer. Next, sketch your ideas, followed by choose one, your best idea. And then follow up by writing details to explain your example. On the last few slides, we will focus on number 3, writing details to explain your example. In other words, elaboration. So when you think of the word connection, what do you think about? I challenge you to think of connection as something different. In the world of writing, a connection is also known as a transition. It connects paragraphs, ideas, and even sentences together. And with this connection, you produce coherency. So when introducing the concept of connections to students, they may understand the word connections better than the word transitions. The word connections helps students understand the link that must be made between ideas in 2 separate sentences. To help students practice the idea of connections, begin by having them fold a sheet of paper into eighths. Here we see that there are many types of connections or transitions a writer can use to connect ideas. They can use them to add information, add detail, provide an example, introduce a new idea, provide a comparison or a contrast, add a fact, or provide a description. Copy these 8 connections onto your foldable. We will practice using connections or transitions in the following activity. In this activity, we will identify coherency connections or transitions in the paragraph about snowflakes. Here is a portion of text taken from the book, The Snowflake, Winter's Secret Beauty. Within the text, I have included blank lines after every sentence. These blank lines represent a coherency connection that is needed to connect sentences. Let's read sentence 1. Imagine billions upon billions of exquisite ice sculptures floating down from the sky during a single snowfall. Now look back at your connections foldable and decide what kind of sentence could follow sentence 1. Would a sentence with more information, such as a detail, a fact, or an example, would that work well? Or how about comparing and contrasting an idea? Or better yet, what about a description? I've got it. How about a sentence describing a snowflake using a simile or metaphor? Now let's look at sentence number 2. Each snowfall provides a unique exhibit of winter art. What would help the reader further understand how a snowfall provides a unique winter art? How about a sentence comparing the snowfall of winter art to a professional art? Let's look at sentence 3. If the climate is agreeable, you might be struck by the sight of a magnificent snow star. Well, for starters, I don't know what a snow star is, so the most logical sentence to follow that would be an example of what a snow star is. That would be a great following sentence in this piece of text. So again, allow students numerous opportunities to add connecting sentences after sentences in their own writing by using their connections foldable. So why will coherency make your writing better? Well, think about how coherency makes writing better. Coherency requires a direct focus on the prompt with the best idea, which is organized properly and includes connections for elaboration. Coherency is the final key to good writing. Thank you so much for taking the time to view this presentation. And I really hope that this information makes an impact, not only on your instruction, but also in your students' writing. So for any further information and to review the full report by Dr. Thamelitz, please contact your reading facilitator. Thank you and good luck.